Hello, I'm Brent Gardner, and this is the NRA-ILA Grassroots News Minute for Friday, October 23rd. Here with today's first story is correspondent Krista Cup.
Thanks, Brent. On October 13th, the Associated Press reported that the so-called Binational Task Force on Rethinking the United States-Mexico Border has produced a report which, among other things, calls for reimposition of the federal assault weapons ban of 1994, saying it would improve security in both countries. The Border Rethinking Group has been put together by the Pacific Council on International Policy and the Mexican Council on Foreign Relations. The group consists mostly of former U.S. and Mexican officials and journalists, none of them currently elected by the people of the United States or Mexico to make policy on these issues. According to the Pacific Council, the report is being released November 13th and is absolutely unavailable until that time. The Brady campaign naturally has a copy of the report anyway and quotes its executive summary as saying, "The United States should intensify efforts to curtail the smuggling of firearms, ammunition, and bulk cash into Mexico by aggressively investigating gun sellers, regulating gun shows, and reinstituting the Clinton-era ban on assault weapons." Congress finished its hearings on the Mexico situation several months ago, and many members of Congress have declared their line in the sand opposition to any kind of ban. So given that the Brady campaign seems to be the only outfit that has a copy of the embargoed report, it's safe to conclude that the task force is trying to keep the public primed for the next attack on the ownership of firearms, like the AR-15 and the Remington 1187, and ammunition magazines designed for defensive purposes. Whatever the opinions of those who muse about how to restrict the rest of us, reimposing the ban would have absolutely no effect on Mexico's historic problem of crime and corruption. For more information on this report, please see our story at www.nraila.org. And now, back to you, Brent.
Thanks, Krista. Now more than ever, the federal government is in no position to waste taxpayer dollars on gun control advocacy research. Nevertheless, the National Institutes of Health recently gave anti-gun researchers at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine over $639,000 to conduct a survey intended to prove that possessing a gun doesn't benefit assault victims. Criminologist Gary Kleck calls the resulting survey the very epitome of junk science. Poor quality research designed to arrive at an ideologically predetermined conclusion. Here's how it was done. The Pennsylvania researchers surveyed only those assault victims who were shot. In the last 6 months of the survey, researchers limited those surveyed to victims who were fatally shot. It did not consider the far more numerous gun owners who use guns for self-defense successfully without being shot, nor crimes that were not even attempted because the criminals feared that prospective victims might be armed. The survey was further limited to residents of urban Philadelphia who, according to the research, were significantly more often Hispanic, more frequently working in high-risk occupations, less educated, and had a greater frequency of prior arrests compared to the rest of the population. Victims who were shot in Philly but who were not from Philly were excluded as well. The survey considered a victim to be armed even if his gun was in a nearby vehicle or in another place. As Kleck mentions, none of the evidence presented by the authors actually has any relevance to the issue of the effectiveness of defensive gun use, for the simple reason that at no point do they ever compare crime victims who use guns defensively with victims who did not. Kleck notes that other published research reached precisely the opposite conclusions reached by this survey. What Kleck had in mind were the results of the federal government's annual National Crime Victimization Survey, covering tens of thousands of assaults. Kleck and others have reviewed those surveys and found that people who use guns to defend against assaults are less likely to be injured than people who use other means or no means of protection. For more information on this story and up-to-date legislative alerts, please visit our website at www.nraila.org. Hi, I'm Brent.
And I'm Krista, and we're here to tell you that the Grassroots News Minute is going on the road.
We're riding along on NRA's Vote, or Virginia on Target Express Tour.
As you know, the 2009 Virginia elections are extremely important as we look toward 2010 and 2012.
NRA staff and volunteers will be working throughout the state from now until Election Day in support of NRA PVF endorsed candidates.
Visit our Facebook page often to follow our travels as we hit the road to show you NRA isn't just here to make a point.
Alongside NRA volunteers, we're making a difference.